Good afternoon, everyone. Whoever's tuning in at this point, probably nobody, as we just started the stream. Um, we're going to continue with these lessons in approximately 10 minutes, so just get comfortable and get everything open that you're going to want open. You're going to want open. My bad on that. I didn't realize I didn't have the stream muted for myself, so we were enjoying some double Buckethead. Fortunately, that's over. As with most unpleasant things, it comes to an end eventually. Anywho, moving on. Hello, thank you for tuning in. My name is Wall. Welcome to VMaNGOS with Wall. This is Lesson 6. This will be covering pathing, gossip text menus, and some GM commands. This lesson is probably going to go until about 4 p.m. Eastern time today, so a little under 2 hours for now, as we got some stuff to work on later. But we're going to try and get all this material in by that point. Britannia was the one who actually recommended this month's topic. He had said that these are some of the most common questions that he gets, so having a video that's nice and concise and covers these topics will be helpful to people. So we'll go ahead and we'll cover this, and we'll push off our DBC reviews until probably next month, probably some point. Frankly, the DBC reviews, they're useful information, but they're not very enjoyable content. It's very condensed information. So we're going to try and knock out something fun this week, or this month. Yeah, very fun tournament yesterday. We, of course, have the tournaments every month the day before. The last Saturday of the month is the tournament, and the last Sunday of the month is the VMaNGOS lesson. So we were able to have our tournament yesterday, and it was very enjoyable. It was a Battle Royale match in Old Hillsbrad. We played, I think, 6 games in total. They lasted about half an hour each match, and essentially you'd spawn into Old Hillsbrad. Everybody would spawn at the same time, and they'd have 1 minute immunity, and you start out naked, and there's 8 vendors for 8 tier 1 piece scattered across the map at the major locations like Terran Mill and South Shore and all the different locations. And you run around and you grab all the gear from the vendors and you fight people while you're heading towards the point. And you basically had about 20 minutes to get all your items, and then you would have to go to the sudden death area and fight to the death there. Up until the sudden death, you would be able to resurrect. So if you died, it would just be a loss of time and potentially less gear that you'd have for the final sudden death time. But yeah, most people would manage to get 6 to 7 pieces of gear before the time was up, and then they would fight to the death, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So hoping to possibly make that into a more legitimate format, not just a one-off. Perhaps even make it into like a battleground type map. But I'll have to hammer out the concept a little bit more. It was just something that I had come up with a few days before. 27 and I were talking, and we thought, alright, what would be fun? So brainstormed a little bit and came up with the idea and just kind of implemented it as a one-off. So perhaps I'll formalize it with more of like a battleground type thing that people can enter at any point. Anywho, on to the lesson. We're going to cover, as I said, gossip text, GM commands, and pathing. Let's start out with GM commands. This is a common question people always have. They want to know what they can do with GM commands. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at chat commands. We're just going to go there. Easy way here. Now you're going to want to have chat CPP open. So you can find it in your Solution Explorer. We're looking at our VMaNGOS solution here for the core. You go to chat CPP. This will have all of the commands here. I'll have it sorted out in a way that you can kind of see the function and the expressions that you can include in them. So we're just going to go down the list. We're going to go for some of the common commands. We're going to look through and see kind of what you're going to want to know, how to use common things. Let's boot up a server. This is our test server. Wait for that to finish booting. Yeah, it's slow loading a bit because I'm streaming right now, so I've been trying to stream at high quality so the screen's easier to read. There we go. So we're just gonna go on whatever generic account. And we're going to keep this pretty interactive and informal. I don't want to just read off things from the list, but as again I stated, in your solution you can find all of the stuff that you need in your chat.cpp file, and this has all of the commands that you'll need. So I'm just going to look for very common commands here. These are chat commands. So you have your basic commands, your account, auction, cast, character, etc. I'm just going to leave the screen on this list here so you can see. And pause the screen if you need to read over anything, but going down through this list you'll see these are very common chat commands that you'll want to know. And each of these have different functions within them that you use when you issue these commands. To use GM commands in VMaNGOS and with most emulators you type period and then you type the command. So for instance, if we want to teleport, we type .tele and we're going to go to GM island. We're going to close this for now because we don't need this. Close this. lagging a little bit right now because of all the stuff open. Surprisingly. I should probably move this off of that monitor. There we go. Alright. Should be doing a little bit better now. Alright, so let's go into some common commands that I often use throughout the day. Summoning NPCs. If we want to summon an NPC, we type NPC. You can see all the subcommands for NPC. I'll unlock this window and expand it. Now, all of these subcommands can be used while targeting an NPC, depending on what NPC you're targeting and what you use. They'll have a different effect, of course. A lot of the common ones that you'll use are summon, probably the most common. This will summon a temporary NPC. It will survive until it dies, and then it will not respawn. It's just temporary. When you restart the server, after summoning an NPC like this, it will disappear on the next reboot. Hold on. You can have NPCs, you can make them follow, you can unfollow, you can add items to NPC vendor lists. For instance, if we wanted to add an NPC item, we would type add item while targeting the vendor NPC. We can even use chat links to add item to the vendors. We can use the item ID number. If we wanted to add some item like this, we would just enter this. I don't want to modify the vendor list right now on the dev server. But conversely, if we wanted to delete the item, we could type in the del item and then with the item ID. Or we can use the chat link. If we select the item, this is probably the easiest way to delete items, is just chat link, select them, del item, and then hit enter, and it'll delete the item off the vendor list. You can add min count or max count if you want. You can add and delete various items from the vendors that you'll need to use. And that's an easy way, conversely, to do it. You can do it within the database in SQL. If you're adding a lot of items, it's probably easier to prepare it as an SQL query instead. But if you're doing stuff on the fly, especially with vendor lists, it's pretty easy to do in-game, as opposed to doing it through the database. So that's a very common one that you'll use. We're going to temp summon a spawn. We're going to turn our GM off. Now, to access GM commands, you just type GM off or on to turn it on and off. You can type GM fly on. This will allow us to fly around as a GM. To modify our flight speed, we're actually swimming, so we would use mod swim 20. To modify our swim speed by 20 times, we'd use mod swim 4 if we only wanted 4 times, be a little bit slower. This goes all the way up to 100. Very fast. The way that you access 100 or anything beyond 4 is you have to have a GM level of, I believe, 6 or higher in VMaNGOS. 6 basically the highest. So to do so, you would have to set GM level. You can do account to see the account subcommands. My account level is 6 on the test server with this. We can set our account level by targeting ourselves. Account set. You can see the subcommands for locked. We can lock this account so it has IP locking, means nobody else outside of our own IP could access this account. To unlock it, you would have to basically go through like a website portal or do it manually within the database. To set the account level, though, you'll need to enter it in the VMaNGOS console. So if I wanted to change an account level for this account, which I'm not going to do right now, I would do so through the console. And the command for that, again, would be account. You don't need a period when entering with console, so just account set level, or set GM level. And then you would type the account name. No brackets, just brackets are used here to indicate this is a account name that it's looking for, a string. And then you would change the account level. 6 would be the max, so something like that. let's say my account name was wall. And we could do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, anything up to 6 would be the max. We're going to summon an NPC. So again, we can see the NPC commands. We're going to access the NPC summon. We're going to summon Hogger. Hogger is ID 448. So we summon a Hogger. You can GM on to turn GM mode on so he stops attacking you. While examining the NPC, we can do NPC info. This will give us all the information for the NPC. While targeting an NPC, we can see the entry, the display ID. If we were to morph ourselves, we could use mod. Mod allows us to modify all of these different functions and features. We want to mod our display ID, so we're going to do mod morph, and Hogger was 384, I believe. So yeah, that'll allow us to transform into a Hogger. But going back, we're going to go up the list here to the NPC info. NPC info will show us various features such as faction. I believe this is faction, not faction template. Faction template is actually 20. If the unit has any type of NPC flags, dynamic flags, or unit flags, if it has an inhabit type of 1, that means it's a land creature. It means I don't think actually Hogger can swim. Let's test that. See if Hogger can swim. Inhabit type of 1 is land. 2 would be water. Yeah, so Hogger gets stuck. He can't enter the water because he's got an inhabit type of 1. He's got 64 for unit flags, which would be the enumeration for 40. Flags. So unknown 6. We don't even know what he does. He's got an unknown unit flag. It indicates something, but quite frankly not sure, so it's unknown. You can see all the other information though. Spawn time, his pickpocketing template ID, his loot template ID, the amount of armor. This is a raw value 545. If he's located from within an instance, which he's not, he's Hogger, so on instance open world mob. His position, which is the current position where he's at, not his spawn position. AI name, he's got event AI with no script, so this means that in the database he would be stored within the creature AI event and creature AI scripts tables, and all of his information would be in there. We're going to have to open up Heidi again. So creature AI events, his was 448. Search Hogger though. Let's see, 44801, 44802, referencing creature 448. This is his creature event scripting. This determines what he does and when he does it. So since he has event AI, he'll have basic combat AI, and he'll have these functions to do a random say on aggro, which means he shouts. And event type 4 is to activate the script, which would be when he aggroes, and he'll cast rushing charge when he aggroes, which means he'll rush in on you. That can be found within creature AI scripts, the table right below it. Hogger. This would be say text and cast spell rushing charge. Command 0 is say text. This will reference a broadcast text entry, and let's see. Ooh, 1 second. 1871. So you can see 1871, more bones to gnaw on. Is something that he'll shout when you aggro him. There's the other one. Or Gur fresh meat. You can see that he's got 2 entries. 1871, 1870. The broadcast text entry for creature AI scripting would be within the script commands. file. So scriptcommands.h and scriptcommands.cpp. You can see all of the entries. So script command talk, entry of 0. Source would be world object, target, unit, or none. So we don't have any entries in there. You can see that it has no target for the scripting. And data int is broadcast text ID, and you can have optional for random selected text. So he'll pick between those at a 50-50 chance. And I don't believe that there's any parameters. I don't believe that there's any parameters to select the chance for the broadcast text. So that's a bit of an unknown, but it's probably split between the two, 50-50. In classic vanilla, I should say. Anywho, so yeah, these are a few different functions that you'll find and that you'll see referenced on the creature NPC info. His AI scripting, his loot tables, his templates, which you can find those in the database for his pickpocketing template and his loot template, his faction templates, his spawn time, which is in the creature table, and various other pieces of information that's easily accessed in-game with a simple command. Again, that's NPC info. It'll show you all that info when you're targeting for whatever you're targeting. We'll use it on the vendor here. And it'll even show that he's flagged as a vendor and a trainer, since we're targeting him. Doesn't have any scripting, doesn't have any loot templates, has flags to make him unattackable, essentially. And inhabit type of 3, you'll note, is anywhere, I believe, for land and sea. Land and water is inhabit type 3. So this is a common flag used for NPCs that can travel both on land and sea. If I were to aggro him somehow, or an NPC with that flag, they would be able to swim into the water. A lot of people have been asking how to make creatures swim or not swim. That's the inhabit type. Alright, and moving on though, we're going to go back and take a look at the mod flags, or the mod command, I should say. So type .mod to access all of the subcommands. This will allow us to modify any of these aspects about any unit. Some of them are restricted to players, obviously, but we can mod HP, mana, rage, energy, how much money they have, speed, swim, scale. Mod scale is a fun one. It allows you to shrink your character, grow your character. We can scale it to 4, big hogger. We can do mod speed, make us run faster. Let's see the size and the speed that we've acquired. I'm going to go to Programmer Island. A little bit more open space to run around in. You can see I got the traps spawned here for testing. A bunch of combat dummies. Yeah, we got the planes running now. I'll activate planes running instead. There we go. Yeah, I get that 90% run speed bonus. I gotta watch out. This mine is right here floating. I might actually remove that, because that's just not right. Anywho, moving back to the commands. Any of these can be accessed through the mod subcommand. We can mod any of these. It's very simple to see what they do. Some of them might be a little bit confusing, but for mod, not really. Exhaustion allows you to mod your rested state, essentially with rested command. This is something custom here, so exhaustion, I believe, is now added. I don't know if it's deprecated. It was deprecated in the client, but it's now added in VMaNGOS, I believe, recently, so that's a new one that I'd like to point out. Mount is also a fun one. This allows you to mount any targeted creature. Lights Hope. We'll go to Lights Hope. Let's scale ourselves back down. To get out of the morph forms, this is a good one to know. Demorph. That'll allow your character to demorph, obviously. I could have sworn there was a horse here. There's a mule. I don't know if I can mount the mule. New mod mount. Or, I'm sorry, just dot mount will allow us to mount it. Yeah, okay, so we still got all the backpack stuff on, but any creature that you target can be mounted in such a manner, if it's mountable. If not, it'll give the error message, but they're pretty few and far in between for stuff like horses. To get off, you just type dismount. And that's a common one too if you're mounting any type of display IDs. Most of them you can mount. Yeah, okay, there's no such mount, so many display IDs won't have the ability to mount, but you can see like this display ID, it's humanoid. This is the generic humanoid character model. I can actually mount on top of it, so he carries me around on his arm. It's pretty comical. Let's get off, type dismount. Anywho, we're going to go back to some of the commands. Type help.help. That gets us the full list, of course. A lot of them are things that you'll never want to touch, nor will you need to. It's good to read through them, though, and see all the details. Go is a common one. This allows you to teleport around. Honor allows you to modify your honor. Replenish restores you to full health, so you'll see a common macro that I'm using is revive, replenish, cooldown, clear, repair. All of these are commands that you can access, and as a GM you can turn them into macros. Then it has a bunch of on-auras for common negative auras that are things that you want to reset, such as forbearance, first aid, debuff, you know, basically anything that would be considered a negative aura, deserter, debuff, things like that. This is a very good macro, so if you want to pause the screen, copy this down. I can post it, in fact, even in my guild Discord. Wallcraft Discord, I mean. I'll put that in the notes and thoughts channel here for just a common GM macro for resetting things. You'll see that I always have this on my bars. It just makes the game a lot easier for me. Let's see, I've revived myself, all cooldowns are cleared, and I've repaired everything. I got a GM on. We're gonna go up. This is a good one to know. Go allows us to access go functions, which is basically like a teleport. It's not a teleport in the sense that the teleport command, when you use tele, accesses entries from the game tele table in the database. This allows you to go directly to locations that are relative to your place or are exact coordinates on the map, is what I mean to say. So if I wanted to tele to Arathi Highlands, I can't actually use Arathi because it's a go command. So if I wanted to tele to Alterac Mountain, I couldn't because it's a go command. It allows me to go to the Alterac Valley Battleground. So there's different tele commands for those. If you say tele Highlands, that'll allow you to get to Arathi Highlands. The go command, though, we can go up, we can go forward, we can go... can't go left, can't go right. Go down, nope, can't go down. I don't think we can go back either. So you can go up and forward. You can modify those by a numerical value. So we can go up 100, we can go forward 1,000. You can shorten them with abbreviations, so I just use go F and go U. I wanted to go up 100. I wanted to go forward 10,000. I've gone forward, that's for sure. Don't even know where I am. Tell me back, GM. You can go to a graveyard. The graveyard is referenced in the DBC, World Safe Locations DBC, within the client. Your database also has the World Safe Locations facing table. So you'll see the World Safe Locations facing is used for player orientation. I believe it was like patch 1.9 or somewhere around there. Blizzard changed it in original vanilla to make you face directly at the spirit healer NPC when you went to a graveyard, so the database itself has the world safe locations facing the table. You'll need to make sure that that's included if you're trying to add graveyards. I just added a graveyard last night for the tournament, or yesterday for the tournament. That would be in the cameras of time. This was the holding cell for the Battle Royale. And I got the tele vendor here just in case people are stuck. After the game's ended, you can see that I added the GM on. You can see the Spirit Healer. I added a graveyard here for the games. And if we release, it'll put us right at the graveyard. I don't have a location facing set for facing the Spirit Healer because it doesn't really matter. People would rather face this way anyways for the battleground. But this graveyard is 10-15, so we can go grave 10-15. It'll take us to that graveyard. Grave 10-14. This was the one from our Blackrock Depths tournament, and it's actually the graveyard now for Blackrock Depths. We enjoyed it so much that we decided to keep it here. Makes your run back into Blackrock Depths after a wipe a lot quicker. In fact, we can even see that in play. I want to read the chat real quick. Upright says, we want Wallcraft. Yes, we do. I agree. Reynolds Cahoon says, what's exhaustion? Exhaustion is a deprecated client feature that was originally planned. If you look through the tables, in fact, we'll pull that up real quick. Hold on a second. I'd love to restart the stream with a lower encoding rate because I'm getting shit frame rates. Let me try and restart my client, maybe. I doubt that's going to help. It's because I cranked up the stream for a video. I shouldn't have changed it. We have to find the DVC. I can't remember what it's called. Exhaustion, yeah, of course. Pull up exhaustion, and you can see that the deprecated ones were tired, and exhausted. So you would have two different states of tired. The first state of tired would occur after being outdoors for 8 hours, or and would be reset after 4 hours of rested, and you would get tired. So something like this. This might not be exact, don't quote me on that. But basically you would gain a tired debuff, and you would gain an XP modifier. The XP modifier would be increasingly worse when you were exhausted, and you would be able to gain no experience while exhausted, along with the a loot factor of, I think it's like a quarter loot, basically. So essentially you had to be rested, you had to be looking after different quality of life type things for your character while you played. There is a different function for the Chinese client where you're basically out of time or you're out of game hours. I don't know if this was ever implemented directly within the Chinese client, but I do plan on implementing this in Wallcraft, just so everybody's aware. I'm going to have a function like this, except you'll be able to clear up rested using things like in-game food and drink, stuff like that. And you'll need to basically rest on a character for X amount of time inside of cities to extend the duration. That's a long time plan, those systems, so it's gonna take a lot to work into the game, so yeah, that's gonna be a long ways away. Either way, Static Axe, will Wind Fury proc from Hamstring? Are you talking about Wallcraft? No, Wind Fury will not proc from Hamstring. Hamstring does not deal any damage on Wallcraft. Neither does Wind Clip. But you have Slam, which is better. So, Slam has less than 1.5 second global cooldown with talents, and you basically cast it faster, and it does damage. So no, you won't be spamming Hamstring. You'll just be using your normal rotation to DPS and be doing all your stuff. Late Bloomer Kai asks, "Hey Wall, what's your experience with programming or coding?" I was interested in programming and coding growing up. Didn't really pursue it as a career or anything, and I got into VMaNGOS a couple years back and just been rolling with it. A Spork says, "Dude, I want mule mount with the cool bags." There is mule mounts without the bags that you can ride around on. I haven't added them to the game yet, but they're in the files, and I've used them a few times on some of the videos. Late Bloomer says, "The things you're doing are absolutely amazing, and I'm very glad someone is doing something like this. It's very exciting." Yeah, I'm glad that you're enjoying the content, man. Misty says, "They made tired the default and normal as rested, if I recall correctly." Yeah, something like that. If you look at the table, it was probably 3 different tiers of tired, but they just made rested as normal. That would have been, like, pre-alpha, though. So, I don't know what your initial plans were, really. Reynolds says, "I think I saw someone working on the playtime restriction functionality, but I recall it being shot down as a feature that'd never be needed." I believe it's actually implemented. I can't recall. I'd have to go through the commit history. Britannia just added the core functionality for it, so I don't know if anybody's using it. That was the guy who's trying to start the server over in China. I know who you're talking about. He's in the VMaNGOS Discord. He wanted the playtime restriction function to basically, like, stop people from playing or something like that. Anywho, moving back into GM commands. We're going to go over the GM commands for like another 10 minutes. Then we're going to move on to another topic. We'll take a break before then, though. Kashmir Kung says, "For the freezing death debuff, do you still get extra stacks if you stand still? The logic being that if you stand still, your body is more static and does not consume energy. Or faster stacking, rather." No. There's no depth to that. I mean, there could be, but I don't want to make it too overly complex and bloated. There's already recourses and remedies very commonly accessible for dealing with frozen death, so through the survival skill, you basically not have to worry as long as you're using the survival skill to counteract it. So yeah, I'm not too worried about making it too elaborate in how it's handled. Basically, though, if you're outside, we'll go to Winter Spring. We'll use the weather change command, W change, and we're going to indicate a blizzard. 3 is snowstorm, and 1 is the severity. We can use any value from 0 to 1 for that, so we're going to do 1. It's actually dust storm. Oops. 1, 1. Is snowstorm. Oh, that's rain. 2, 1 is snowstorm. There we go. So yeah, 1 is rain, 2 is snow, 3 is dust storm, and 0 being a clear day. We cranked up the weather for Winter Spring, and we now have the stack of frozen death debuff. That's how you access the weather command, though, is W change. And of course, snowstorm being 2, 1. Yeah, people, though, they have suggested making things like if you wear plate armor, you're more likely to be struck by lightning, or you get struck at a higher amount of health. I've considered it, but again, I don't want to make... I want to make the systems nuanced, but I don't want to make them too overly complex, because then it just becomes annoying for players. Very straightforward is a better way to do it. Anywho, moving on, let's see what we got. Close this out. And we're actually going to close that out. We'll leave this open, though. Chat commands. We're going to go back to help to see our full menu. Comma commands that we're going to use for interacting with stuff in the world. The weather. Comma commands, if we want to kill stuff, we just type die. Die will instant kill anything. If we want to go to a target, we can use go and then target, which is part of the go sub-functions there. We can kill everything around us with AoE damage. And then set a value, very high value. You can see AoE damage on these. Do AoE damage for 100,000. If we wanted to go to a player, we can go name to a player. I can't remember what names we have, so let's take a look. Okay, UIH. We're going to go to UIH. Go name UIH. That's how we go to players. We can abbreviate it with GON, go name. I believe that's the shortest abbreviation you can get on that one. And if we want to bring them to us, we can name go. And name go will bring the player to you. That's a very common one. If you're trying to summon somebody as a GM, you just name go. And if you want to go to them, use go name. Again, if we want a GM fly on, we're going to use GM fly on. We'll mod our swim 10 so we can go faster. And we're going to fly around the map a little bit. Oh boy. Yeah, terrible frame rate here. In fact, let me just crank down the terrain distance. That should probably solve it. There we go. Who command. We're going to... this is probably a little bit more advanced. We're going to use a little bit more advanced commands. We're going to debug. This will allow us to debug all of these values. This is something that's a little bit more advanced, so you're going to have to know kind of what these values or index names are. But this is very powerful. This allows us to do a lot of things within the game in real time to help debug different various issues. Common one that you use is get value by name, get value by index. If we summon a hogger here, we're going to debug get value by name, unit, field, flags. We can see he's got unit field flag 64, which is what we looked at earlier when looking at hogger. And we can even debug set value by name, unit field flags, and then we can determine a value that we like. If we wanted, let's say, unit field flag of 0, we can change his unit field flags to 0. Obviously, we want it 64 though. And that will affect the specific unit, so just be careful. It's a very powerful command, along with all the other debug commands. You can find out different states. You can turn different creatures' orientation. So you can use debug face me. Summon a hogger. You can make him face us with debug face me. And see how he turns to face us. It's kind of like using distract. Alright, so we're going to take a 5-minute break now that we've gone over some of the common commands and how to access them. Again, just look at chat CPP for the full list of commands. You can always go to this file and then just Control F to search. And this will give you all of the commands that you'll ever need to know. There's a lot of them, so it's not something that you'll probably have memorized until you've been doing it for a long time. You'll remember most of the common ones, but a lot of the ones for working with stuff like waypoints and such, they're a little bit more complex. You'll have to kind of acclimate yourself to them. We're going to go over gossip text next. We'll save the waypoints probably for next month, or a few other topics that we're going to wrap up next month's tutorial as well. So we'll see what the time allows, but either way, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll get into the next portion of the topic. Stay tuned. And we are back. Let's jump right back into it. Give me 1 second to pull up the chat here. Hex TV asks what add-ons. I don't use many add-ons. I use Atlas Loot, Trinket Mate, VCB, KTM. Those are like the big four. Everything else is kind of superfluous to me. Missy says, I've accidentally selected mobs while using A mod speed. When wanting to target myself, it doesn't seem to affect the mobs, does it, to your knowledge? No, if you use mod speed, it doesn't affect mobs. It just affects players, so no risk there. If you're targeting a mob, it'll just say player not found. If I can take a look there. Yeah, I wonder if I can change encoding halfway through a stream. I don't think I can, but let's see if I can. Yeah, I don't think that'll work. Anyhow. I'm still gonna mess with it. Take a look because this stuttering is not cool. Yeah, whatever. That's just how it's gonna be, I guess. You know what I could do that probably help? I'm going to close the YouTube stream. That will probably help. If you want to ask any questions, any further questions, do so through the Discord. I closed the YouTube stream, so I'm not going to be responding to YouTube chat. I'll just use the Discord channel. VMaNGOS Classroom channel. Yeah, that's definitely a lot better. Just having the YouTube stream open was a little too much. Anywho, back into it. We're going to talk about texts. We're going to talk about broadcast text, gossip texts, gossip menus, gossip menu options, various different dialogue options you're going to want to know. So, let's pull this up. We're going to go into our database editor. And we're going to look at some of the gossip text that we just added. First off, actually, we're going to go up to our solution file. We're going to look at hard-coded text. Those are the most straightforward. Those are different gossip menu options that are hard-coded directly into the core. They get displayed through the core, so no messing with the database for them. Just directly through the core. And we're going to take a look here for custom creatures. We're going to go to custom_creatures.cpp. And we can see all of the custom creatures that are used for the custom editions, such as Teleport Vendor. They have the hard-coded gossip text options. This is one that I just added to Wallcraft. This is, while I'm working on the Deep Run Tram, I wanted an NPC that would be able to just serve a similar function to the Deep Run Tram while I'm still rebuilding it. So I created a custom gossip creature for a Deep Run Tram NPC, which we can... Oop. We'll go into a rat inside the Deep Run. I have like two tiny little flies flying around because it's hot out. It just got done raining, so there's a lot of bugs outside. We got two tiny little flies flying around my room right now. It's driving me nuts. So you can see that the Deep Run Tram is currently inaccessible, and that's because old Iron Forge. So up until we can make a custom Deep Run Tram, we use these teleport creatures. And this has just hard-coded options, just a greeting, which we can change the greeting in the greeting option menu there. But don't even have to worry about it because this just gives us the two options to travel between Stormwind and Ironforge. There's two NPCs placed outside, and you'll see that the portal for the Deep Run Tram is actually listed as inaccessible. Oh, it's because I have GM on. So you can see Deep Run Tram still goes, but for now the GM it says that it's currently under construction. Again, that's because of Alpha Ironforge. So this guy, though, his options, Stormwind and Ironforge, these are hard-coded teleport gossip menu options. That's done directly within the core, customcreatures.cpp, places where we'll want to find it. And you'll see that he has the gossip option function, which adds the two options, Stormwind and Ironforge. The add gossip menu option will give us different parameters that we can use within. It'll be the main menu for this one, and this is the listings for the ID. 1 and 2 are just the ones that we're using for these custom options. And it sends the gossip option menu to the player with the creature's GUID. You can see that the actions, the gossip menu action button, when we click on it, it issues a function to teleport the player to the specified location and close the gossip menu before doing so. And this is for when you select the Deep Run Tram. This puts you on the main menu for when you're speaking with him. This will send the default menu for the Deep Run NPC that I created. It sends it to the player with the creature's info and the action specified. So we can see the different actions enumerated in here. Going back to the database, though, for various texts, broadcast text, like we looked at for Hogger, are stored in the broadcast text table, and via the broadcast text table, we're going to be able to see the all the listings here, all the entries, all the enumerations. One second, I'm pulling back up the YouTube because I got a feeling people are using the chat there still. So all these entries are unique, and these are all referenced within different functions. Some of them can be referenced within the core, hard-coded to reference these numbers. Most of them are referenced within the database, though, that you'll find. And we're going to close the game client for now. Alright, there we go. Much better. Now, we just made a gossip menu the other day through the tables here. We have 3 different ones that we're going to want to look at. We can search. Actually, we have 4 that we're going to really want to look at. We're not going to look at the locales. This is just for translating the different gossip menus, which useful for generic servers, but if you're doing any custom content, it's very difficult to keep translations up for everything, so that's just the thing that you're probably not going to be doing. Gossip menus, gossip menu option, gossip scripts, and NPC gossip. These are the 4 big ones that you're going to want to know, along with the broadcast text table. And starting off with gossip menu, you can see the gossip menu entries. These are referenced on the creature template, so 60501. You can see that this NPC, Grog Lorebeard, has a gossip menu ID of 60501. And this is the Ironforge Airport Flight Master. You can see the text ID that's referenced here. This is his broadcast text ID. Let's go back to broadcast text and look for... I'm sorry, it's actually not broadcast text. Forgive me there. That's incorrect. Gossip. I believe that's actually NPC text, not broadcast text. That's NPC text. So his entry for 9007 then conversely references broadcast text. It's a bit confusing there. So Gossip menu will reference NPC text table, which correlates to broadcast text and then has different columns for probability and multiple different broadcast text IDs. And that'll allow your NPC option menus to have different greetings, different text menu entries that randomly appear depending on when you speak to the NPC. This is useful for flavoring the world and adding a little bit of RP to it. Like if you talk to a guard, he'll say something different, 7 different chances to say something else in his generic greeting. Going back though, we're going to look at gossip menu that correlates to that, and then you can also have script IDs. This will be for gossip scripts. It should be gossip scripts table. And you can associate it with different scripts, such as when you speak to them through that gossip menu option. And this is conditions, so your conditions table obviously has different conditions that enable things like to add checks for various different things. Like if the player has to be inside Stormwind to access this, then it would be a condition here. Something like, let's say you had a vendor that traveled between Goldshire and Stormwind, and while he was in Stormwind, he sold items, but he wouldn't sell them when he was traveling, or something like that. You could add a condition that would say, when he's in Stormwind, then you can access this gossip menu. Taking a look over the chat, Soa says, "Hello Wall, I've recently started learning VMaNGOS and I have a small issue. I made a quest to collect 10 feathers from some mobs, but the mobs drop the feathers regardless if player is on the quest or not." That would be through your loot templates. The problem that you're having there, Soa, is your loot templates. You're going to want to create quest item drops using loot and creature loot template and reference loot template. You'll use these two tables. Easy way for you to see would be to look up pre-existing entry here. But basically, anytime you see the min count or reference has a negative value that matches the item, that is a quest drop, basically. And that'll reference a loot template on the reference loot template entry. So you look at that one. I'm sorry, I can't remember if, what was the negative value? It might be actually quest or chance quest has a negative value. But what you want to do is you want to look up an item, Soa, find a quest item that already is in the game, just any common quest item. And then look it up in here and see how it's kind of referenced. If we were to take a look at a quest here. Wow, I can't even think of a single bundle of Akiris. So we're going to take a look at the item template here for bundle of Akiris. Bundle of Akiris. So 4028. Actually, that's not even a dropped item, is that? Yeah, chill wind meat. I think this is a quest item, isn't it? I should just look on the database real quick. I can't, I'm spacing out. I can't even think of a quest item drop off the top of my head right now. Here, let's look up some quests. Okay. 8 White Ravasor Claw, 11477. So we can look at that in the loot template. Item 11477. Sort. So you can see chance or quest chance. Okay, so scratch what I said about minimum count or reference. If it has negative value, that's a reference loot template entry. For quests, though, you need to have a negative value. So this item has an 80% chance of dropping from the mob. This is the mob's entry. And this is the item ID, which is White Ravasor Claws used in Bone-Bladed Weapons quest in Orgrimmar. This has an 80% chance to drop. You want to use a negative value if it's quest item. And that'll be under creature loot template. Anyway, getting back to what we were discussing, broadcast text, gossip menus, etc. We looked at the gossip menus relation to the NPC text table, which in turn references broadcast text. Now we're going to take a look at the gossip menu options. What we're going to do is we're going to sort by the newest one that I just added, or some of the newest ones. Let's see. Okay, I'd like to vendor some items. Please clear out my bags. So these are two option menus that I just added to the bag lady. She now has the option to clear out your bags, and she can vendor items for you. So we take a look. Her menu ID is 13508, and she has two different gossip menus on her main menu. So the ID 0 and 1 differentiates the two. You can have like up to 8 or so. In fact, probably more. I'm not really certain though on how many you can have. But all the different options that you have on that menu would be listed here. Option icon determines what the icon looks like. So for the vendor one, it's like a little money bag or a little bag to give the vendor icon. And then when you look at the clear out my bags icon, it's a little text bubble on the menu. So that helps differentiate options for players when they're using the menus. The option broadcast text would say something. Either the creature says something or the game inputs some sort of text to the player when it's used. Obviously this doesn't have those because we're not using them, so this will put up the broadcast text, and there's tons of different ways that it functions, so you want to look at the broadcast text table for more enumerations on that. But the option ID allows you to determine what it does. The clear out my bag function is just a generic function. The vendor item function is function 3. So that would open up a vendor interface menu. The NPC has to be flagged as a vendor NPC, and it'll have its items listed on the NPC vendor tables. As we showed earlier on adding items to the NPC vendor list in game. That's a vendor NPC that has those flags, and that NPC in fact is this one that we're looking at right now. NPC option NPC flag, this is 4, so they're a vendor. We'll look at NPC flag, enumeration for NPC flags and unit defines. You can see unit flag 4, this NPC is a vendor. So we have flag 4 here for her. And action menu ID, if it's a 0, it means that there's no action menu. It just pulls up the vendor sheet. If it's a -1, it means that it closes the menu out. And if it's something else, if it's an action menu that's not 0 or -1, then that means it references an action menu ID, which can be essentially recursive in how they work. For this example, 15002, when you talk to this NPC, it puts you on action menu 15003, which you can see referenced right above it. This means you're basically progressing through all of these different option menus in sequence. Now, let's say you had an option menu that gave you one dialogue option with an NPC, and then you clicked on it, and it took you to another menu with a single dialogue option, like you're talking to them for like a quest or something. And then you click on that, you could have 3 dialogue options on the next menu. That would basically be denoted with your IDs under the incremental values on the menu ID. So you basically just work your way through the menus, and you can determine how many different gossip menu options you want on each ID. So this NPC, you can see, he's got a long gossip chain. He talks for like 9-10 pages. Yeah, basically 11 pages of text here when you talk to him. And it'll go one by one through all of them as you select the option to go next. You can see the Wallcraft Lobby NPC. He has 3 options on the initial menu, so 0, 1, 2. And then if you select either option 1 or 2, which is the second and the third option, it'll take you to 13504, 13505, which are these. And this one continues on into some dialogue until you get to the end, and then it sends you back to the beginning. 13503, which goes all the way back to the beginning here. And then going through the different things, action point of POI ID, that's point of interest. This means like you click on that action menu and it pops up an icon on your map or your mini map. Those are predetermined and area point of interest. And you basically set a coordinate and then you set the action menu for the point of interest to appear on this menu, and then when it's clicked it'll appear on the mini map until the player approaches, or if they, I believe, go too far away or something. How the client handles points of interest. Action script, this references gossip scripts, and that means when you click on the dialogue option it will trigger the script ID. The script ID is not conjoined with the menu ID. It's an entirely different value that's referenced, so you can have them overlap. It's just convenient to have, you know, the same menu ID have the same script ID. Obviously you need to work around however the numbering needs to be for yourself though. Box coded, box money. I don't know what box coded is, frankly. I have no idea what that even means. Box money. Let's see if there is a value that we can find on it. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything used for that, so it's just blank. It might be deprecated, might not be, I have no idea. Box money though, this determines, I think, how much money you have to spend to click on an option. Nor is that used, so I can't even tell you really. Neither of them are used though. Box text, box broadcast text. I, again, don't think those are used either. I haven't seen those used. Some of them are null, some of them are blank, but I don't think it makes any difference. Either way, and your condition ID. This references the conditions table, of course, that we talked about, and this is how you set conditions for it, such as being on a certain quest, or having a certain aura, or, you know, X, Y, or Z, whatever you want to define within conditions. So this is the gossip menu table, and as we talked about how these interlink, this is very... It gets confusing working with them, so it's nice to have everything sorted out in a range of numbers that you can reference that are not conjoined to any other range of numbers that you're not using. But either way, let's take a look at some of the gossip menu option scripts. That'll be the next one, gossip scripts. So we have, for our gossip script for our reset NPC, 13502, when you click on him, he says, you know, do you have a boo-boo? And then you click on this option, and it'll restore your character to full HP and reset all their cooldowns. That's NPC on GM Island that makes it very easy to duel people, because you can just click on the NPC after the duel and reset all your stuff. And it takes away all your debuffs, removes any negative effects, basically resets you to full with all your cooldowns. So we have that set up in a script here. 13502 matches the same menu ID. So let's take a look at that. 13502. And reset vendor has two different entries for that. 13502. This one is command for cast a spell, and this one is a command for play a sound. 16 is sound, 15 is cast a spell. The spell is a reset spell that I created, and it's just a dummy spell that has a function within the core. And the sound is referenced in the game sound files, and it just plays a sound to confirm. Helps players have like a little bit of a audible indication that it's worked. Flags. Typically 1 means it's repeatable in some sort of fashion. Might be self-target, in fact. We're not going to dig too far into any of this stuff right now, though. But either way, you can see how the script is pretty easily referenced. This is the same generic format as every other script table, so we can take a look at, let's see, gossip. Your gossip definitions, gossipdef.h helps define all of the different options as we were talking about earlier. So you want to take a look at all of the different predefined NPC functions here. talent trainers, armors, stable masters, auctioneers, etc. And then these are the little chat icons. You can actually add your own little icons, little custom icons if you wanted. Electric Justice says, if I gave you $14 an hour, would you code my WoW server? That's pretty low, bud, but I don't know what you mean, code. And I don't think you're serious on that deal anyways, so no, I'm going to have to decline. 14's a little low there. Okay, and here are the point of interest icons. These are the icons that get displayed on the minimap when you have the action menu point of interest or any other point of interest function. So you can see all the different little icons enumerated here in your gossip definitions. And these are commonly used for like PvP objectives, stuff like that. So you can kind of see how the like Arathi Basin ones are all enumerated here. Stables and lumber mills, stuff like that. They all have their own separate icons for them. And that's about all for gossip menu option there. And then NPC gossip, this correlates the text that they state. This will be, I believe, a broadcast text, and no, actually this is NPC gossip, isn't it? Yeah, so that references a broadcast text, and NPC gossip, this is their initial text that they say on the menu, I believe. So instead of just saying a generic greeting, you can have it correlate to any of the broadcast text that you'd like to input. So you can see, let's see, NPC text. Take a look at 90003. And okay, so that's the pre-made gear vendor. So when you talk to him, his initial greeting is going to be defined in that NPC gossip table. He has a high GUID. I actually have to fix these GUIDs. I don't want them in the 2 millions. Anywho. Now for the last part of the lesson. As I said, this is going to go on for another half an hour here. We're going to take a quick break. I want to have a smoke real quick and get a drink. And then we're going to continue on to the last part of the lesson. It's going to cover waypoints. We're not going to show anything super fancy for them, but we're going to show you basically how to do waypoint functions and create waypoints for NPCs. I do it very primitively, so it's probably not going to be the best tutorial on it. Chances are there's more sophisticated tools for using waypoint generation, but something simple as fixing a waypoint I'll show you how to do. So let's say an NPC is falling through the ground because of a waypoint that you have. You can fix it by modifying some values pretty easily. Anywho, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to continue afterwards. Stay tuned. And we are back. Yeah, after changing the encoding, there's definitely a delay in the stream here. Oh no, we seem to be alright. Okay. Nothing new in the chat here, so let's continue on with the last part of the lesson. We've got another 25 minutes to wrap this up, so we're going to be taking a look at waypoints and creature movement, essentially how NPCs path around on automated routes. And we're just going to go to the normal server. And let's take a look at Ogremar. We're just going to find some guard NPCs that are pathing around. We have Ogremar Grunt, and we're going to observe him for a moment and just watch his pathing. Dismiss my pet. We're going to use WP, which is Waypoint. Waypoint show on. We're going to turn GM on. And his waypoints are represented by these little waypoint GM visual wisps.
Strength and honor. What do you mean?
And you can see the visual level of the waypoint is indicative of the order and the number for the waypoint. You can see with GM on, he's walking into this pillar, which is solid, that you normally won't see because of the Dragon Slayer heads. But we see them with GM on. So you can see all of his waypoints, and each level indicates the order. See how this one's 68? He doesn't actually path to that one. He's going to 64 here. He'll path to 68 on his way back, which is probably this is the last one. Yeah, so 66, and then he comes back. So he's going to walk out to here and then come back to this point, and continue on through this pathing here. So his waypoints are referenced in the creature movement template and table, and you can see all of their waypoints here. And we're going to clear our filters and take a look at the highest one on the list here, 302703. Now, creature movement and creature template are two different ones that are essentially the same. Creature movement template is what you'll commonly see, and in fact we can see it's GUID, and creature movement is also another one here. So those points in order, make it a little bit easier to see. So we're going to go to creature 17995. Go creature, which is abbreviated C. 17995.
Hello.
And we can see the Dalaran wizard that's pathing around here on the field. Point show on. And we can see his waypoints. I'm trying to recall the differentiation between creature movement and creature movement template. I believe creature movement template is like used for generic creatures, generic NPCs, whereas creature movement template is used for something more special. Oh, okay, that's what it is. This is referenced, I believe, by GUID, if I'm not mistaken. So creature movement references GUID, and creature movement template references creature template entry. So we can go to GUID. In fact, we're just going to copy that. Go GUID. Actually, you can't go GUID. Go. Go that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, we can. Go.
Hey
Yeah, okay, so that's its GUID. So if we do the waypoint show on, see the Theramore guard waypoints.
Hello.
Okay, so creature movement references GUID, creature movement template references entry. The reason for that, it escapes me. At one point I remembered it, but now I can't. The specific reason, but basically one you'll often see with like guards, and the other one you'll often see with creatures that are spawned using like scripts and stuff. That'll be the movement template, which references entry, would be used in that instance, whereas creature movement references static NPCs that are found on the world, so references them by GUID instead. Anywho, though, we're going to show waypoint. We can add waypoints. If we were to do waypoint add, I would have to reference the GUID and then add the waypoint number, which we're not going to actually do. And we can do waypoint modify. I can't recall the exact syntax of this one, but essentially you can modify waypoints. So if I were to target, I believe you have to basically like target waypoint, and then you can do the waypoint modify, and it'll teleport to wherever you're standing, and that changes the waypoint to that exact position. If I recall correctly, I don't know if it actually moves the creature, so you might have to tie this in with a macro to an NPC spawn move function. But either way, that'll allow you to modify waypoints. And then we can do waypoint export, and we're going to want to target the NPC. We might have to 703. Successful. And then we can look in our server file. We should hopefully see waypoints. I'm not too certain where there's exports to. Sort by date modified here. Then script waypoints is also something that you'll reference. Script waypoint references the script ID that uses it, and this will have things like quest NPC scripting that is used. You can look at stuff like we just recently had the Ngor one. I believe it would be probably not this one. I don't know what this one is in fact. Cinematic waypoints as well. References the cinematic ID. It's typically the starting cinematics that you see, the flyovers, and then it'll have different timers for the different things that are traveled to by the camera. The camera being what your assumed vision is, and it's essentially traveling via splines to the different locations. This references the waypoints intervals and the positions that it'll have to be flying around on. So yeah, that's waypoint functions. We're going to take a look at the waypoints on the database once more real quick. And that'll be movement. So we see the Theramore guard, her movement points. She's got 59 different points in total. And she paths all the way around here. We can see her visual waypoints represented. We can edit these in the database. And I often find it much easier to edit in the database by getting GPS coordinates and basically storing them externally and then compiling them into a big insert query. You could do them manually in game. That's also fine. It depends on the use case, really, in the scenario that you need. But whatever's more comfortable for you. A lot of people find editing them in game is a little bit more comfortable. Either way, one thing to note when you're setting waypoints, make sure that they're not too far apart, depending on the NPC. The reason for this is it paths fine. No matter how far apart, it'll have the same pathing. If you do them too close to each other, the mob might be walking around in different manners that don't really suit proper movement. You know, if you have them 50 in a tiny little span, he might just be turning and twisting because he's pathing to each of them. So put them at a reasonable distance like we were showing. But you want to note that if you have them too far away and you aggro a mob, he will run back to the previous waypoint. So if the previous waypoint is 100 yards away, you aggro the mob, he's going to run way far back and then continue on his path. Basically, they reset their movement to the last previous waypoint that they can. So don't put them too far apart for mobs that you plan on might have aggro or might be fighting something. Because you'll run into that issue. The mobs will just run away as they're resetting, and they'll run very far away. Either way, though, that essentially covers waypoints. It's not a very complex system, but it's very tedious to script waypoints manually. So just be aware that if you want very intricate movement and pathing for creatures, it's all done manually in that regard. There is different types of movements that are randomized movements, but the waypoints are what we're covering today, and that's basically what you want for these types of, you know, guards walking around the city and whatnot. This creature is tied to this guard, so they both path. This is a creature group, meaning this one doesn't actually have waypoints. It would be this one. Might be vice versa on that, in fact. Yeah, so this one's got the waypoints and this one doesn't. They're essentially supposed to simulate as closely as possible the same movements as they're tied together. Yeah, so this one doesn't have a path, you can see. Has no path, or path empty. Has no path, and that's because this is a creature group. So this one will always follow this one, and this one is the only one required to have a waypoint. This makes it easy to have creature groups, like Crimson Courier is a good example, that paths around in groups. You only have to do the waypoints for a single creature. You don't have to do them for each individual creature. And you obviously want them to be grouped the entire time as they're traveling. If they were all on separate waypoints, separately they could be separated, essentially. So use creature groups for that. These are sniffed to be Blizz-like. So as to why she's walking over the fence, I don't know if that's supposed to happen, but all I know is the paths are sniffed to be Blizz-like. So VMaNGOS is pretty clean in that regard. Some of the pathing might seem a little bit funny, and I do plan on perhaps going back through someday and cleaning up the pathing and stuff like that, so you don't have to see that on Wallcraft, but that's a lot of work for very minor details. I love doing that stuff, but it's very time consuming. So either way, we're probably going to wrap up the lesson now. I know it was a little bit shorter this month, but I wanted to make sure that we just touch on these few topics that Bertelny had brought up. Again, GM commands, just look at chat CPP, you find all the commands in there, just read through it, sort through them, you can mess around with them. One GM chat command I did forget to mention is how to permanently add creatures to the game world. You'll use the NPC spawn function. So again, you can see the NPC subcommands. You add an NPC permanently with NPC spawn. So if I were to do this, it would permanently spawn a Hogger right here because he's NPC entry 448. So if you want to permanently add stuff, you add it with NPC spawn, and then you can modify stuff in the database afterwards. It's usually a little bit easier to do it that way, is to add the NPCs and then edit them afterwards. Just have like generic template for them and to add them into the game world, and then you can add them afterwards in the database. But that's the way that I find it's usually a little bit easier. Yuri asks in Discord, as far as using money through gossip, I think in almost stock vanilla server use that function to have a gambling minigame and that stop allowing players to gamble with each other because scams are really common. yeah, I can imagine. Talk to an NPC and then you all talk and he rewards somebody with like some lottery bullshit. Yeah, I can imagine that. That's funny. And that's the last for the chat there that we got. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I hope this month's lesson was very informative and covered those topics concisely. I would have liked to have dived into them a little bit deeper, but it's mostly just reading off enumeration lists and stuff at that point, so I'm not going to bore you all. You can dig through the content as shown in the video. Until next time, though, next week, or next month, I should say, we're going to cover a few more topics that are picked from the community, and then we'll continue on afterwards with our DBC overview and talking a little bit about that until we get back into map editing. In case you didn't see, we did the Night Elf housing area in the last month's patches. So this is the Night Elf player housing area. It turned out phenomenal. It looks super clean. Beautiful amount of detailing here. And these are all player houses. These are locking doors that you have on your front of your house here that keep other people out. And each player can have a key that they want for their house. Tons of details and features, though. It's absolutely a beautiful zone. Definitely the best work I've ever done. I worked like a maniac on this too for like almost 3 days straight. It's got all the little critters flying around and squirrels and wisps and all the whatnot. Yeah, very gorgeous zone. Definitely diminishes the value of the dwarven player houses, which dwarf not finished yet. I still have a ton of detailing work to do to make it up to par with something like this. But the Night Elf one I found very, I don't want to say easy to work with. It was definitely a big, complex task. In the Discord, in fact, you can see. Let me pull up the image. Yeah, here it is. You can see the entire area with all the object model boxes. These are just for the decals on the ground. So it's definitely a pretty crazy area. A lot of work put into it. Yeah, it turned out very nice. I love the ambiance of it all is just phenomenal. It feels like a very elfin zone, very night elf zone, and the detailing on all the houses. It's just very, very vibrant. Each house has a very unique feel to it. Each house has little various bits of detail that makes it, feel it stands out from all the rest. So very happy with how this turned out. Black Lotus asks, Orc Mud Huts when? Yes, I'll be doing a Horde one next. I'm probably actually going to do Tauren next. Orc, that's the difficulty. Orc is pretty simplistic. In terms of the player housing is easier to add to the game world than the city housing, the townhouses, because Stormwind, Ironforge, and Darnassus have a ton of townhouses. The Horde cities have none. So adding player housing is easy because it's separate in terms of zones, and it's a little bit further away. Gnomes is going to be easy because there's a nice big area behind Gnomeregan that can be used, so that's not an issue. Tauren, they're going to have a new mesa added over by Thunder Bluff. It's going to be connected by a big long bridge, and it'll span all the way over for player housing on a big player housing mesa. The Orc one, outside of Orgrimmar, I'm going to have to select a nice little area. I want to keep it like the cliff theme around Durotar there. So like the Cliff Canyon type deal. I'd love to integrate that into the Orc player housing as kind of like the theme. So that's going to take a lot of work though. That's a lot of consideration for that. In fact, we can tally to Durotar. You can see on the map, we're a little bit limited in spacing, so it's probably going to end up going up on one of these cliffs over here. Yeah, I have a lot of detailing to add to the Dwarven player housing. See, like this type of cliff idea, I would love to have like houses or huts somewhere, and like a little cliff path to reach it. but chances are I'm going to have to put it somewhere rather inconspicuous, but maybe even behind Orgrimmar. There's a lot of room around the map on Orgrimmar. So perhaps even behind Orgrimmar. So there's all this unused map area. You can see like behind the city, under the city. Yeah, and like there's all this space between Orgrimmar and Ashara that could possibly be used, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to consider orcs. Like I said, Tauren gonna come next. Thunder Bluff. And like I said, I have plans to add another mesa to Thunder Bluff, and it's probably gonna span over here. I had some nice cliffs pre-selected for some player housing, like somewhere up here, and probably extend it with like a bridge out to over here. So you definitely got a lot of nice options. Let me turn back up terrain distance. So yeah, like this mesa right here is absolutely perfect for Tauren housing, and I could easily connect this with like a either maybe I'll do another lift. Maybe I'll add another lift right over here, or a bridge. I'm not really certain on what I want to do yet. I could do like a bridge over here and kind of extend it around. This doesn't have any detailing, but I could add detailing, and then I'd like to have player houses for Thunder Bluff kind of like interconnect over here. Maybe I'll make it like a nice long bridge, you know, connects with a bridge over to here, and then extends up more bridges, and then it comes over here. So player housing would be like right around here. The Dwarven player housing. Arrow. Dwarven player housing, obviously it's in-game, all the houses are there. There's a lot of work to add the dwarf houses. The dwarf houses themselves were harder to add than the night elf ones even, I would say. That's because the dwarf houses are like halfway into the terrain, so I had to carefully cut the terrain out. The house's exterior on the dwarf houses has very nice detail. Like, the houses themselves are done. What needs to be done is there needs to be more decaling on the terrain, more texturing. There needs to be some more objects around town, and I gotta add, like, collision to these, and some of the other things. Like, this doesn't have any collision in this entire building. I found out how to add collision pretty easily, though, to these models, so that's not going to be a problem. Oh, something I should showcase real quick, too, while I'm here. The original tunnel has been re-added because of the new Nugget version that we have that allows us to work with them. The original tunnel has been added going down to wetlands. This allows you to much more easily get there. Speed 4. So yeah, going down from the airport, you go to the Flight Master and then you go up the hill. And then when you get down through this tunnel, you kind of want to watch. You can go down the main route, but there's enemies down there. You travel along the side, though. If you go along the side, you can go all the way down over to here. And as long as you just kind of follow the path, you're not going to be accosted by any enemies. And then you jump off right towards here and swim. And you'll see that there's a clear line, no crocolisks, no mobs in between you and Menethil. That'll allow you to get to Menethil as a level 1, which means Night Elves, or if somebody wants to train in the Night Elf zone at low level, they can go there as a human or a dwarf or a gnome. Night Elves can easily get over here as even a level 1, you just run all the way over here. It helps hardcore players, Death Trial players, and War Mode players specifically, or especially I should say. But anybody looking to get to the other area as Alliance, because Horde has these Zeppelins that allows them to easily travel between them. Alliance has always had an issue of getting to Darnassus, or from Darnassus. That kind of resolves that. The other route also existed, the Death route, but obviously in Death Trial you don't want to be suiciding to get anywhere because you're going to lose all your stuff. Same with War Mode. So yeah, it kind of benefits them a little bit more. Either way, very exciting. And we have a lot more work, a lot more developments. I have to get back to working on some of the old Hills Red stuff. I'm going to go show this real quick as well. The original, we had the Battle Royale here yesterday for the tournament, so we had a lot of fun PvPing around here. But what we also have is we still got the stock vendors. What we also have is the remake of Alterac, and you'll notice that Alterac isn't run down anymore on the Old Hillsbrad map. That's because Old Hillsbrad is going to take place in the first Battle of Hillsbrad during the initial parts of the Second War. It's a very long time ago in history, and this is back when Alterac wasn't, you know, a total shithole. It was actually a kingdom. So you'll notice that we have all the buildings are all in place. They're not rubble anymore. They're all actual buildings. And all the walls are repaired. They're in full good use. None of the towers are burned down. You know, they're all good. The buildings are all textured, decaled. They've got all their, you know, doodad sets and whatnot. So yeah, this is very exciting because we're going to turn this entire map into a huge open world PvP area. And who knows, maybe I'll even keep the Battle Royale format for it. I like the idea of a Battle Royale type battleground that you can just freely join and leave at any time, and you just go there and, you know, gear up during the minigame process, essentially. But, something very fun in that regard. Alright, either way, we're going to call it for this month, and as I said, next month we're going to cover on with generally the same topics, some user requests for functionality and features. And after that, we're going to go back to some DBC overview. That'll be 2 months from then. So, thank you for tuning in. Glad you all tuned in today and came out here for the presentation and got some good information. It's always a pleasure, and until next time, my name is Wall. Take care.